Hey, John, how are you doing?
Hey Harold, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I know we're meeting sort of in a different capacity here, but I thought, this would be a good time to sort of see what we would do in a virtual situation here. So, what do you
Yeah,
think?
it's our first virtual session. I don't think we've ever done virtual together. It's always been
Right.
in person, and now it's virtual today. So
Yeah,
let's
I
what
think
do we
this would
got?
be a great chance to take a look at how this works as well. So, I was kind of thinking that maybe what we do is that we will talk just a little bit about the current state of affairs in this country right now, and just sort of how we are looking at on how are being looked at on a global scale. I mean,
Hmm.
it's been sort of I've heard a lot of discourse that's been going on. A lot of people are concerned about these tariffs that have been invoked upon the countries around the world, the United States itself, and its leadership. Is it sort of like right now is being questioned by the global community, from our allies to our adversaries, and so people are sort of standing in a pensive situation. And I thought this might be a good opportunity just to have a discussion about sort of some of our thoughts of what seems to be sort of happening around. And well, I don't know. What do you think about that as a topic right now?
It's probably one of the hottest topics in the world right now. I think all eyes are on the U.S.
Yes, absolutely.
Just in just in how, how we're playing out in the global, sphere of everything of what we are doing economically,
Mhm.
um, that could potentially hurt our global trade partners. It's definitely on a lot of people's minds. I think the uncertainty, I think, is what kills
Mhm.
everybody. I think that is also what drives some of the fear, not just fear, it's uncertainty. So you don't know what's going to happen. So how do you react? You have to just react. And then if you don't react and something else happens in a few weeks or 2 days or a few weeks, whatever it is, then you're behind the eight ball already and you should have acted then, right? So you are forcing people to do things out of the norm, and businesses have to do things out of the norm because they just don't know what's coming next. Uh, I've seen that in my work. I've seen that in my field of what we do today, of what industry I work in as well, and how things are affected, and now how companies are putting in contingencies to avoid certain things because the costs are going up. Uh, it's been it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge just again personally. You also think personally, how do you combat this? Because with the uncertainty, not knowing if maybe the job market starts to really crash and tank and layoffs come, and unfortunately you're involved, you're unfortunate and laid off. How do you survive if you have a
Mhm.
house? You have to pay a mortgage and you have to pay for a car and you have credit cards and you have to live, you have to eat, right? You have to do all this other stuff. You know, Personally for me, it's saving mode. It's like don't spend money if you don't need to. How do you cut back? And that all translates not just to your personal life, it all translates to business as well. So businesses are doing the same thing, but just on a larger scale. Uh,
But think about that. Just what you just said there. You said cut down. And so if you look at it and you say dynamically, every household or the majority of every household starts to cut back. And when they cut back, what happens is that now you're starting to see this dynamic, sort of this domino effect, where, the businesses now have to lay off folks because people aren't purchasing. And
right. They're
so,
not spending.
yeah,
Yes.
they're not spending, but they can't spend because they are uncertain about where they're going to, end up. And so this aspect of what we're seeing now is translating across the spectrum. But I think in other countries, they are uncertain about it too, because I mean, at one time, I mean, the U.S. was a leading indicator on a global scale of economic um, upturn, downturns. Whatever happens seems like in this
Hmm.
country starts to affect other nations on a wider scale. And so right now, the current administration seems to be sort of not sure what they're doing. And I say that in the sense of you look at uh, the Doge capacity here and the job layoffs, and you think about the going in and slashing some of these folks that basically have been in these positions doing the job very well, and where they but they're saying, okay, the efficiency of it is that we need to cut back on this, and so now we're starting to feel all of the elements of what these folks that are not in place. I mean, cutting education, cutting Social Security, cutting, and these things right here now is sort of disrupting the natural flow of what we've been accustomed to in this country. And
Yeah.
then the world is looking at this and saying, what are they doing in this lineup? And so the current administration says, well, we've been not doing it right as far as the tariffs. We need to tax, And there is a way, I believe, that that process should be implemented and not the way that it's being implemented. And I think now we're starting to see the fallout of that on a wider scale. And so we're seeing layoffs and people not certain, like you were saying earlier, not certain about what is coming next. So they're folding in, trying to hold tight, and hoping that they're not going to be on the short end of the stick in case the company has to lay off. But you can kind of feel that sort of wave coming, and everyone is trying to prepare themselves for it. Does that make sense, kind of, to
Yeah.
you? Sort of, is that what you feel, or what folks are saying around you, or so?
Yeah, it definitely does. Um, Again, the uncertainty kills everybody. But like you said, it's domino effect.
Hmm.
So, you have the layoffs and the cuts. You're laying off tens of thousands of people at one
Yes,
time. It's
exactly.
not a small amount of people. How do those people then re-enter the workforce if there are no jobs to get, and there are no jobs to fill? So that is, I see that as a problem. And then you also put, now they file unemployment, they get all these benefits. Well, who pays for those benefits if, they're laying people off and they don't have money? So just the whole, like, it's just, it goes round and round. And yeah, I'm never against finding efficiency, right?
Hmm.
Because you
Right.
have to do that to get better, to save money, whatever it is. So I'm okay with doing that. But I think the process that certain people are using today is just, oh, I know the process is just to let go of everybody, or let's shutter a whole department because that's the way to save money.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm.
great, but did you think of the effects of doing that? Did you do actual analysis to understand the effects of what you're doing? I highly doubt people are doing that. They might model it in a certain way and just, oh, we shut a department, we laid off 10,000 people. That's, $5 million. Okay, but now what happens when they're not there? What happens now when someone doesn't do that job? What happens? And I don't think there's thoughtfulness in that process, and I think that's what's lacking. Um, Again, all for efficiency, all for finding and cutting the fat, as they call it, but you have to do it in a way that makes sense, in a way that um, where you have an actual factual backing of why you're doing something.
I
Never
think
going to be
too, sort of.
perfect. Yeah. Never
No,
going to
it's
be
not.
perfect, but you can't, but at least you can say, here's why we're doing something, not just to say, oh, I'm just saving, look, I saved $10 billion by cutting a contract. Okay, well, now if you cut that contract, do you still have to do whatever the contractor, like, is that job that the contractor was doing, is that still necessary? oh yeah, we're just going to get it to a different contractor who's slightly less money, right? So again, and then you play all those games of, oh, well, I cut $10 billion out. Yeah, but I had to hire another contractor for $8 billion, right? And I really, so it's really only two. So there's all these like everybody can manipulate anything you want in today's society. You can say a number, oh, this is what I did. People will say, oh, look at that. That's why we have this DOGE. They're finding all the they're trimming all the fat. And then when you ask, okay, well, show us the proof.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
oh, well, it's over there. Just trust us. No, is that
Well,
how it
you know,
works
it's
in
kind of
business today? Right? That's not how it works
right.
in business. When you go to your boss or you go to present to anybody, you have facts. You present the facts as to why you're doing something or why you did something. And it's agreed upon that, yes, that was the best decision you could have made. It's not like that. There's nothing, none of that, it feels like.
I think that's sort of the thing that they've been sort of looking at, asking, okay, show us where you see these efficient inefficiencies going on, and
Hmm.
then let's, so, and I think that's the problem with sort of the current administration and the past administration of what, and the American people, their expectation. Their expectation is both parties now, working together, and there's never been that cohesive action. And so it's either one side or the other. It's never been one where they both sort of say, okay, the aspect of this country needs to be done in a way that we can find a balance, and so we find this one side or the other, and we're swinging, and the people, the American uh, people, find themselves as the recipients of this sort of ball and chain activity that's going on.
Yeah.
You're chained to it because you don't have any choice, and you put these folks into place, and then you expect them to sort of look out for your behalf, and then they go all off on a tangent of some sort, and you find out that, oh, suddenly now we're looking at potential of recession or uh, whatever that's coming about, and then people start to freeze out. One of the things I saw recently here in sort of the news, and they always, the current administration usually say fake news, but I mean, however the news is put out there, we see this, and they were showing some of the numbers in Target, and that Target has now seen a downturn for the last 10 weeks of, I forgot what the percentage was, of less traffic in the stores. And
Right.
so I'm looking at folks now are starting to say, well, we can't afford it because the price of things are up. So we've got to sort of condense our spending and cut back on it. We've got to start saving and trying to see, can we wither this, whatever's coming ahead. And that starts to build the fear and anxiety in the marketplace. And we'll see
Mm,
the stock market rise and fall from any little thing, right? The last thing that came up was that I saw the current administration saying they were going to do something with sort of curbing off the tariffs against China, but
right.
they're still, China was still, standing here and saying, well, we'll stand here and battle it out, and the other countries are standing back and watching. And this is kind of uncertain territory that the global landscape has seen, and the U.S. is actually implementing it in such a way that it's like doing it all at once, that it has such a catastrophic aspect to it. And I think that is a fear that seems to be pervasive uh, around everyone's mindset. All the
Yeah.
businesses are looking at saying, well, maybe we've got to cut back and brace for this because we don't know what is next and what's coming. And then, the trade balance is sort of at hand here. And the aspect of what everybody has been afraid of now is coming to light. It's almost like the past administration, we were saying, well, they were doing such a job where the prices of goods and services were rising, and we're seeing this inflation. And now we've gone to the point where it seems that the inflation has expanded even further, and now we're talking about now the cost of goods and services that used to be reachable is now becoming unreachable. And what do we do in that case? It's kind of like we're standing here in this cloudy moment. No one can really see ahead, and I'm just sort of wondering what is the next step that's coming into place.
Recession? I don't know, right? Like I think I saw, and I've been reading on this as well. I think, and I can't remember if it's the bankers or whoever it was,
Mhm.
90% of, or maybe it was like CEOs or something, CEOs, 90% of the CEOs surveyed said that we will probably be in a recession soon, like this
Yeah,
year.
yeah, that
I
was one
mean,
of the.
it's deadly, right? But
It is. I mean, it is. Well, and this is sort of what people were hoping. I believe people were hoping that we could avoid that with the new administration coming into place.
yeah.
And it seems that I saw a little blurb, one guy that had said, indicate, I think he was with the IRS, and I saw this a little blurb, and he said, I voted for the current administration to come in, but he said, I did not anticipate them coming in with a sledgehammer. He said, I thought they would come in, and this is sort of his words. He said, I thought they would come in with a fine tooth comb and sort of comb out some of the inefficient uh, folks that were in the process, and then not necessarily just come in. He lost his position, and he had been
Mm,
there, and he said, I didn't see this coming.
right.
And I think that a lot of folks did not see it coming, that were hoping that the current administration would come in and sort of stabilize what they thought was spinning out of control. And so you've got this dynamic now that no one knows exactly what is coming next. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
kind of feel that. I thought this.
it's funny though because not to get too political, but I mean the administration's doing exactly what they said they were going to do. Like I don't understand how people are so surprised with this.
Surprised. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
understand.
but think about it. The they were anticipating what was said was going to make things better for them
Yeah.
in the short run. The current
Yeah.
administration is saying this is going to be in the long run, but didn't tell you that it was going to be painful, or that it was
Yeah.
going to be maybe even detrimental to a lot of folks. A lot of folks right now lost their position, and they were doing a job that they've done for years and done it well, and they're
So
out.
are you telling me, Harold, are you telling me that politicians lie?
I'm saying that I would say they think it's the truth to what they want it to be. So you kind of look at it and you kind of think, well,
It
the politicians are not, they don't tell themselves that they are liars, even though they may be lying to you. They may be stretching that truth
yeah.
up there to make it seem believable. But when the facts come out, you find out, and you put politicians on the line in both parties,
The both
both sides
parties.
of the fence,
Oh
both
yeah.
sides of the
Both sides
fence.
do this.
They
Yeah.
tell you all of this dogma
Yep.
for you to believe them. And then once they're in place, they find out they cannot make that happen. They're not working together to achieve the goal. And so now we've got this split in the country of folks that say, well, we got to do this. And okay, so what about the farmers that are out there that used to have the ability to trade their goods across, the ocean, so to speak, to other
Hmm.
countries? And now we've got the neighbors north and south of us sort of feeling a little bit off kilter with us.
Yeah.
And so that right now, you say, here's this farmer who's been working all of his season to prepare for trading his goods. And now no one wants to take this. And so you can't sell your goods. And so what does he do? Or what did she do in that regard? It's like, okay, I'm sitting on this. And after a while, that starts to go bad.
Yeah.
Now, in the long term, we're saying, let's bring manufacturing back to this country. My question is, who's going to work those fields out there that no one really wants to do that
Yeah.
particular job? No one
Yeah.
wants to be in on the factory floor like we used to be. And we're seeing this, and the young people that are coming in, they don't see it that way. And so we're now sort of in this place where the education system is now threatened with educating our young minds to be creative like it used to be. And I say like
Hmm.
it used to be, being that you really had to be fairly strenuous in your educational foundation. And now it's kind of like you go through the process, you don't really come out with the sort of creativity. I think the US led the world with a lot of creative mind, but that didn't just happen here on this. We had folks that were from around the globe
Mm.
contributing to that creativity here under this umbrella, which enabled the US to have a global um, presence. And now
Yeah.
we are seeing the diminish of that aspect. And I'm wondering, what about our young minds, the young people now, what they're seeing and how they feel about these changes that are happening so drastically? I think that's the word, drastic. Drastic change in such a way, in such a short amount of time. The fear is pervasive across the spectrum of this country and around the world.
Yeah. There's,
So I think that's sort of the uncertainty now, and that's, kind of the reason why we're having this conversation right now, because
yeah.
I think it's really on the minds of most everyone.
Yeah. And we all feel it today,
Yes, yes.
just everywhere. And you can feel it too when you're just outside. You know, you're going into whatever place of business, a
Hmm.
supermarket or
Hmm.
whatever it is. You can kind of like, you can feel it. You can feel it in
Hmm.
the air.
Yeah.
As you know, there's tons of protests going on as well. I mean, there's other
Yes.
things in the background as well,
Hmm.
that you see happening, that maybe it, it's taking its toll on people if
Hmm.
people are out now out there protesting and, demonstrating and doing all these other things, then, there's something going on, and
Hmm.
maybe it'll get bigger, maybe it won't, maybe this administration will then kind of ease off on the all this talk and this rhetoric, but
Well, right
just
now, as it stands, I mean,
they
they
won't do it,
are,
right?
yeah,
It
they're saying,
just knowing the history of this administration and the current leader, it's they're not going to.
right.
So we have to be
So
ready for that bumpy ride.
I think that's sort of the context of it. And I think some of the business economists are projecting that we are heading straight into the cloud of the recession. And in doing so, the businesses are now trying to, in order for them to survive, they're saying we've got to make some cuts on it. So they're going to be looking at the less productive folks in their lineup to maybe let go of them. And so there will be a tremendous fallout of that. And when you start to see that happening, now you start to look at, okay, people are now in the line to, like you said earlier, uh, unemployment, and what's going to happen there. So when you stop and you start to look at, where's that unemployment funding going to come from? Because now you've got more riders on the governmental um, skirt tail,
Hmm.
okay? And they're depending on survival. So is it going to put more people on the street without being able to, so we're looking at and maybe that's what the current administration said, well, it's going to be painful before it gets better. But they didn't say that during the election process.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, we're gonna be able to do this thing right here, and and it's going to be better, and we're going to bring
Yeah.
down the prices."
Right.
And people are still feel, they're still feeling the angst of prices continuing to rise, and with the tariffs in place, now the countries are now figuring out, and this is something that I heard an economist say this, and I heard, and it was kind of interesting because I was sort of thinking that too. I thought, well, we've led the way for for a majority of the years, okay,
Hmm.
as a nation, and if a country finds out that we can do, even though it's tough, we can do without, you know, trading with the U.S. and we can go around. And I think China is kind of looking at that aspect. They're trying to see, can we trade to other nations and fill in the gap that we were depending on the U.S. It's sort of, to me, it reminds me of this. It reminds me of, say, if you spray a bug with roach killer. I'm going to use roaches. Okay, you spray it, but it didn't die. It got sick, but it didn't die, and it figured out that, you know what, I can survive. And then you spray it again, and now that roach killing spray is not even it's not even bothering that roach anymore. And it realized it can get around that now, and it doesn't need now what it was doing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I can stay on this. So if you now say that we sprayed this bug killer on the global landscape, with terrorists being the bug killing aspect, and they figure
Mm.
out we can survive without that, will they come back? And this is what they were saying. I saw someone making that statement saying that, if it gets to that point where will the U.S. lose its footing, and at that point in time, no one really needs to trade or want to trade with the U.S. and feel that they can go around and trade elsewhere without goods and services coming from the U.S. What does that do for businesses here? Some of
Right.
the big plane companies were, I thought I saw something the other day where China returned some order
Yeah.
of
Yeah. The
big
order of,
planes.
yeah. 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 Exactly.
Okay, so what happens to those folks that had those jobs, and what happens to the company that was producing that maybe
Right.
had contracts now? Suddenly now they've got to lay off those guys, okay, or because they can't keep them on the payroll
Yeah.
because they don't have those contracts. So that's what I'm talking about, and you get that to a place. The country then looks at itself as being bankrupt. That's not what the American people bargained for, in the current state of affairs right now. People were looking for it to get better. And I think you're now feeling this sort of apathetic feeling that, we're not getting any better right now. We're looking
Yeah.
at this total wall of uncertainty coming on, and we don't know necessarily which way it's going to go and how we're going to get through it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
It's,
yeah, it's a
it
mouthful.
feels, yeah, it's crazy, but it feels, I think the other feeling that I'm getting around this is that it is a self-inflicted recession,
Yeah.
right? Or, we're
Yes.
not in a recession now,
Yeah.
but
No.
potential.
Coming
We're
on. Coming on.
self-inflicting. Yeah, because we are the ones putting tariffs on things coming in. Um, we are trying to win a global trade war where we are not the big fish anymore. Uh, Other countries can trade with each other now and avoid us altogether.
That's
Like you're
that's what they
saying,
were saying.
with
Hmm.
your roach analogy, it's like we're spraying the roach, but then the
Hmm.
roach gets back and then goes around and finds another way home, right?
Yes.
Or to the food or whatever it is, and then we keep spraying the same spot, but it's going
Hmm.
around us. Everyone's going around us.
Hmm. And that's the
So it's
part right there that
yep,
is the uncertainty. I think that people didn't expect that. I mean, in both sides of the fence, in both parties, and even in the center of independence, no one expected the onslaught of this self-inflicted recession that seems to be now coming along here, and we're not certain what's going to happen in the middle part of the year because this
Yep.
happened so quickly
Yep.
that people weren't ready for it. Companies were not ready for this. The stock market wasn't ready for this volatility that
Yeah.
is happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be, like you said, I think some turbulence ahead because I think the current administration didn't anticipate. I don't think they anticipated uh, the fallout to be as turbulent as what we're experiencing right now, and I think it's going to get a little more bumpy as we go along. So, but we're hopeful that maybe someone in the pilot seat will see the course of action that is being taken and try to dial the correct um, process to get through the storm because the storm is coming on quite quickly,
It's
and we
coming.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, and we're seeing our neighbors around us moving back out of the way, saying, okay, well, if they're on a
Yeah.
collision
Go for
course
it.
with themselves, we're
Yep.
just going to stand back and kind of watch what happens. So a lot of
Right.
folks are still, still bullish about it, but I see the process slowly. People are slowly feeling like, okay, this is not quite what we were expecting
Expect,
to
yeah, or
happen.
hoping, expecting.
Uh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
I see it. I see it. It's just like what you and I, it's we see it everywhere now. We just have to plan for we have to plan for something we don't know that's going to happen. It's planning for the
right.
uncertainty. Just
And
be
I think that's
prepared.
probably the word for it. Yeah. For everybody out there that may see this podcast that, sort of prepare for the bumpy volatility that is
Yeah.
is coming along here, and I'm just hoping that our footing on the global stage won't be such that come back in the future that we don't have the um, pronounced global leadership that we once held
Yeah.
to sort of
Yeah.
inspire,
We
you
we
know.
won't be at the forefront anymore. Is what's going to
Right.
happen. Is we're going to be in the we're going to take a couple steps back, and
Yes.
other countries will start leading in the world, and we'll have to find our footing again sometime. And so if we've been through this before. If it's we got 4 more years in this administration, and then we'll see what happens. Uh,
Well, I think that's
it's
the
yeah,
fear that some of the business strategists are wondering where we're going to be in the future here with tearing down what has been put in place instead of sort of embellishing it or trying to figure out, okay, how do we balance it without completely destroying our foundation, the economic foundation. I think that's probably it. But in any case, we could go on and on,
we
John,
can
but
we can current
it,
events, man.
yeah, current,
It's a good topic, and I'm glad we're able to touch on this. And then again, just kind of what the Herald said. We know a lot of people are feeling the pain out there, so just do what you can do, stay strong. It'll pass.
we, yeah,
We'll all get
we,
through it together. That's what we need to do. Just get through it together.
that's
So,
it. So we'll see you
yeah.
next time on the
All right.
Lew
Oh, wait, no, wait.
Perspective. John,
You gotta follow us. You gotta follow
okay,
us.
right in there.
Spotify, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram,
YouTube,
and YouTube. Yep.
YouTube. Yes,
That's
you
it.
got it.
All
Love
right,
it.
Harold. I'll
All
see you.
right, John. We'll see you.
Thanks. See
Okay,
ya.
now take
Bye.
care.